All right, so welcome. We're back here on the stream on the NoobDM channel on a wonderful Sunday afternoon. This is Ariel, NoobDM from Northern California, along with Michelle Cram and Chuck Rios from Southern California, the LA area. Welcome, guys, back to the program. We're finally doing it. It feels great to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons again. I wanted to open up by saying that last weekend, we were talking about this off camera and off the panel, but last weekend we had what the Wizards of the Coast put together a virtual, I don't know what to call it, kind of like a virtual show called Dnd Celebration. And it was all about the new products and the new lines. They got an adventure book that came out based on the Feywild. And so they were trying to promote that. But at the same time, they took the opportunity to have like table gaming. You could zoom in with gaming tables and other things. And there were other panels, so we can, I thought today maybe on our brief agenda, we could go over the main panel. There were a lot of gaming panels and celebrity type, sort of celebrity games and all that kind of stuff like they normally do. But the main focus of it, or I think they left sort of like the best for last on Sunday, the final day of the virtual convention, where they had a discussion about the future of the game. And I thought maybe we could sort of have a discussion on our own about what we think where Wizards of the Coast wants to take our hobby and our game, because it's really the fans that make it go into the future, like next year and the following year. I was telling Michelle earlier, Chuck, before you came in, that there's going to be a new edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and you sent me the link, so you're aware of this, but the new edition of the game is scheduled to come out for in the year 2024, still a couple years away. And they're doing that to coincide with the 1974 release, the 50-year anniversary of the original basic game. So maybe we can discuss that a little bit. Like, do we even need a new edition? It's like, I know there's more interest in the role-playing and tabletop hobby now than ever before because of the internet and other things. So we can talk about that. And world building. The other thing I wanted to talk about was about the world, because a lot of these products are to help the DMs and to help the players, kind of build their own campaign. But as we know, Michelle has run her own game. I've run a couple of campaigns, and we kind of like to build our own adventures, and a lot of people do too. So
I got some stuff to say about the spell stats.
Oh, right, the spell stats, right? Yeah. Well, do you want to lead off with some of the impressions? Well, I guess maybe let's do it this way, and let's start off with the panel. We don't have to watch the panel, but I'm going to share. See if I can share this. I'm not going to run through this video because it's like a 30-minute video, but I kind of give you the highlights. Basically, this lady, Elle O'Sillywood, I had to look her up on Google. She's some voice actress or some Hollywood / internet. And Chris Perkins I know really well because he's a game designer. And
it's obvious that Ellie is an elf.
Yeah, she probably is an elf. She's like some kind of
Aren't we all elves in some way?
Yeah.
At some point, we're all built elves in our lives, I think. But what Michelle was saying was that they were teasing. Okay, back up. The thing is, I watched this video. And I was saying that I was highly disappointed by it because, Chuck, have you ever been to like BlizzCon or like a gaming convention or anything? Or about what happens at BlizzCon and those type of E3 gaming type shows?
I mean, look at me, man.
Yeah.
Right. I had no idea until he said Blizz stands for like Blizzard. I was like, oh yeah, I know Blizzard.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a whole convention. I think I did, but I didn't think D&D was going to be mentioned at it.
Yeah, well, they
bought it, yeah.
Yeah, well, the reason I brought up BlizzCon was, those type of like gaming conventions where they try to hype up their upcoming games. I remember one year BlizzCon, they've been kind of virtual now because of COVID the last couple of years. But I remember one year when Diablo 4 was coming out or Diablo 3 was coming out, they all hyped it up. And that's one of the reasons why I was saying I was disappointed with this panel, because they had Chris Perkins, who was a game designer, that had a bunch of other people that work on Wizards of the Coast. But they talked about, oh, we're working for on this products for 2022 and beyond, 2024. We're working on X, Y, and Z, but we can't tell you what we're working on. We're doing, we're having two familiar settings that we're gonna have some settings come back, you know, and then we're gonna have 2 new ones. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it's like they're not really marketers, so they don't know how to present
I was pretty underwhelmed with it in the highlights.
Yeah. What did you think about it, Chuck? Like, what was underwhelming
I
to you?
thought it all looked like 5.5 rewrapped, just like what they do with sports games. You know how you buy the same sport game every year?
Yeah.
And they just keep rewrapping it. Now on the boxes on sports games, like I play FIFA, right?
Yeah.
And I go to buy FIFA 22 because I bought FIFA 21, and it just says, it has an asterisk, and it says only new kits in stadiums. You know, so they're letting you know that it's the same game now, like subtly, like real in the corner, real small. They're letting you know it's the same game. So I feel like it's the same thing with this release. The only thing I was really excited about was the spell stats for spellcasters.
How's that changing?
So it's for NPCs to make the DM's job easier. They don't have to have any look at a big old stat block anymore. It's just basically they know the spell. Yeah. For spellcaster NPCs, they just know the spells. You know, they don't got to rest, and they're not treated like players anymore.
Oh, so it's basically for like the NPCs primarily, right? Not the players.
Basically, well, no, and for the players too. I kind of got the sense, I'm not too sure, but I kind of got the sense that we don't have to like, we get more known spells now.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that bull where we're like learning a spell. But I kind of don't like that. A lot of people like that, but I don't like that because it takes away from the nuance of playing a spellcast. Like what did I spend my whole life doing, you know? Like playing.
Like wizard
playing spellcasters to learn how to do the
your motivation? Where's your motivation?
To read all the books, and now it's all just condensed into one book. You know these spells, and that's it. And you don't have to learn them anymore. And I'm just like, well, that's not fun. No, so, but I don't know if that's going to be like that or not. I hope not.
Yeah, I think, well, I can give you a quick summary. One thing that Perkins says is they were working on future projects, more adventure anthologies, because in 5th edition, it's been mostly, it's mostly like long adventures. Like they had the Curse of Strahd, which is the classic vampire Strahd. What's it called? I forgot what the original was called, but Ravenloft. It's called Ravenloft. And so they did Ravenloft for 5e, and they did 2 books, but they're like this long books. Like the DM will go through the adventure and then you run. I mean, they're very detailed and very good in terms of the research and the character, but they don't have like he said they surveyed people, and the players want to see more short adventures. You know, like back in the day when we had the modules and we had just like one adventure, it was really short. You can even do a one shot 1 week and another one shot, that type of thing.
They want to play a whole game in one day.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame them. No. I guess is that what they're doing with 5.5? They're trying to, I feel like they've been trying to squish it since like 4th edition.
Well, kind of, but what they've mostly been doing is they've been doing like adventure books where you can, I mean, back in the day you could get a pre-made adventure or whatever. They've been doing a lot of that, and then they do the core books where they expand on the core books. Like they came out with the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual and all that. But then the next year they came out with like more monsters. They always do that, you know. They always add to it. But now that what they're saying is we're gonna have anthologies. So we're gonna have a book and it's gonna have like 10 adventures, you know, instead of just having one book dedicated to just one long campaign. And that's what
I guess that'd be kind of cool, but then they lose a lot of their older fan base because they like to collect the books.
Well, they're still going to have the books, but that's another thing that Michelle was alluding to earlier, was that one of the other things that they said in that panel was that they're going to have different formats, and we were trying to figure out off screen. We're like, well, what does that mean? Like the only formats they've ever had are the core books and the box sets. So I got a bunch of box sets and core books over the years, but now they're doing a new format. But that's why I'm saying I was disappointed with the panel, because they didn't get into any specifics. They're like, oh, we're gonna have new format, but what does that mean? Is it gonna be digital? Is it gonna be like a PDF? Michelle mentioned cards. What the hell does that mean? They didn't go into any specifics, you know.
No, it was a pretty official official D&D thing. I didn't like it too much. I didn't see any highlights I liked. What did Michelle like about it? What did you like about it?
Well,
I watched the wrong video.
The
I
whole
don't think she
video? You
watched
didn't
that
watch
one.
it?
No, but I kind of briefed her on like what they were saying, and and I can tell you like those are the main points. Like working on future projects, but they didn't say what the projects were. Expanding to the books which have more like shorter adventures, what they call anthologies, and then they also said that they're going to have they're gonna have a new setting for the first time since Eberron, because Eberron was the last setting, the original setting that they came out in 2014. But ever since then, 2004, I mean, but ever since then, they haven't had anything new. So they're trying to add new settings and stuff, and that kind of.
Let me redo my question to Michelle.
Yeah.
Out of all that, what sounds interesting to you?
Yeah.
Apparently
If
there wasn't
anything.
much. There
If
wasn't
anything.
anything to be interested.
Yeah.
I think I agree with what you guys are interested in. I would have liked to see more if they had anything. You said they showed pages and things like that.
Yeah, it showed like pages.
I would love to look at the artwork, but that's just me because I'm more into what everything looks like. I don't know. Like map making and stuff. If they had like some like pre-made maps that you could, I guess if everything's a pre-existing world, they have all that stuff in there for you. 10 different versions in one book sounds really interesting to me. I guess if people wanted just the one book, they could break it down, hopefully, or even dedicate more artwork or things to each book when they did break it down into 10. But I don't know. I think that sounds really cool. Having like a whole library of freaking worlds and campaigns that you could just pull off your shelf and like make. But I like the building the world out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's a good segment. Like we could transition into talking about, because that's one of the things I wanted to focus in is the world build. Not just telling people how to world build or something, but you can talk about that because you had experience it. But the thing is, those pre-made adventures where you can pull it off a shelf and it has an anthology where it has like an adventure in the Feywild or an adventure in like the Nine Hells or whatever. You could take inspiration from those and you don't have to run it the way they have it in the book. I mean, they did show pages, but even that was disappointing because the artwork all looks the same. It's like, like you pick up any of those books, it's almost like they have the same people working on it. Yeah. Like
you would like to see a bunch of different versions or artists' renditions of that.
Well,
I like to see a bunch of collaborators.
Yeah, I'm not saying they have bad artists. They have great artists, but it looks like the format, like the way you put the material together, it looks kind of like mass produced or similar, whereas like, this looks like the Xanar's Guide to Everything, or this looks like the earlier DM's guide. It's like
it's repackaged.
And they did announce that in January of 2022, which is just a couple of months from now, they're gonna come out with like a gift set, and the gift set is gonna have it's prepackaged stuff. It's gonna have like the DM's guide, the monster manual. There's only one new material to it that they added, which was what's it called? The monster, something about monsters. It's basically like a monster manual, but it's reprints. It's like the stuff they've had from like all across 5th edition since 2014. So it's like I already have all the books. Why would I want unless I give it? I guess it's a gift set. So I can
what I'm excited about is
maybe it's for people who don't have it yet.
Yeah, like a gift set, I guess. You could give it for Christmas or whatever.
They're gonna reprint that 50th anniversary box set. Remember they came out with a wood box.
Oh,
they came out with the original manuals.
Yeah,
like the 7 manuals and stuff. The little paper thin ones. They're gonna reprint that again.
Oh, that's good because that original. If you go on eBay or something, that's super expensive. You have to spend like $1,000 or something.
Give other people a chance to play that, and like I said, we'll play that like one game of that, and then we'll all get frustrated and just go somewhere else. But it'd be fun to have like like as a little knick-knack or something.
Well, there's
I don't want to pay $400 for a knick-knack.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you $6,000 rack hat that you were talking about or whatever.
Oh, my hat rack.
Yeah,
there's no hats on it today.
I know. But I mean, there will be people that are enthusiast collectors or whatever. And I saw this one guy who's like into fourth edition. He had all the fourth edition books, and I was like, this guy's crazy. He had everything, and he was like, it's like Pokemon. You want to collect them all, whatever. So there's people like that. But
I know a lot of people who like to sit there and read.
Yeah.
Read them like a book.
Yeah. Well,
they love reading them, and I do too. I mean, I'll pull one or two down every once in a while, and I'll check it out because they're cool to look at.
I knew I would take a really long time at the courthouse after I had to like go in for a ticket. So I was just like reading my D&D book.
Just read
it. And then in the courthouse, you're not allowed. They're like, can you put that away? And I was like,
but the nerd inside the judge was just like, that girl.
Maybe you get a better judgment out of it if the judge is also a nerd.
I think I did because I was like, you guys, I had no idea I had a warrant.
Yeah.
They can add up. Better.
Yeah, they can add up.
they're like, oh, and I was like, I moved. I just want to like go home and read the rest of my.
So that's your thing. That's your thing, Michelle. See, so you get pulled over, you just pull out your D&D book with your glasses, and the cop's just like, get out of here. Me and Ariel get thrown in jail. You just Let's admit it. That's why everyone's here, right? Everyone's here to look at Michelle. That's why they're gonna watch the video. They're not gonna even care about what we say.
They throw the book at us, Chuck. They don't care what.
They don't care. They don't care what we say. Speaking of reading, though.
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to see come back. As the writer in me, wants to see more D&D books in novel form.
Yeah,
I want to see more D&D books in novel form because the last maybe 4 I read are trash.
Yeah,
but I want to see. No offense if you wrote some of them. Like I know I have a lot of writer friends. They probably wrote a couple of them, but
it's funny that you say that. I mean, the last D&D based novel that I read was actually based on DDO, which was the online game. I was because I wanted to write my own, and I was like, oh, let's see how they do it, right?
I think that was one of them I read.
Yeah, and it was terrible. I was like, no offense to the writer, no offense. I couldn't get past the second chapter. I was like, this is boring. It's like, you have all this great universe that you can have monsters and dragons and all this stuff, but it was so mundane. I think part of it was the setting because Eberron is more like urban type setting.
Right.
Or maybe it was just the writer, but I couldn't get into that.
They were trying to make it too idyllic.
Yeah.
They were trying to make it all peaceful and idyllic, and I don't even know how the book went. I didn't even finish that book either. So
where's my motivation?
That's right.
Where's my motivation?
I could see Michelle freaking out at the courthouse reading that book. DDO online, she throws it.
Excuse me.
This is trash.
I think the motivation is to make money. So these people are not artistic. The motivation is, let's just whatever trash we can get out there and slap a D&D.
Shit! What did I say, Michelle?
Oh no!
Did I say courthouse?
This is a courthouse.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I can't have you throwing things in the courthouse.
I thought I said something different.
Glad you are at this.
Oh, thank God I didn't say whorehouse. I didn't. I wouldn't have. We can cut that out.
Yeah, we'll have to edit some of that again. When Chuck gets involved, there's a lot of heavy editing that happens.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Go off the rails. Go off the rails.
All of a sudden, everybody's wearing hats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone's wearing sideways hats.
That's right. And talking about Lord knows what. But just to bring it back to focus a little bit, and we'll talk about world building because that's we're kind of like halfway into this and we haven't even touched upon gone into like a world building part of it. I think because they have stuff like this back in the day, like the Keep of the Borderlands, right? The modules. And then when you buy the sets, they give you like the pre-made adventures, like the ice cream, what's it called? The ice one though. But what I usually do is I take those and I try to make my own take my own take on it. I think a lot of people do that, but it's really hard to make your own original material because, like you said, like you keep saying, what's your motivation? What do you want to get out of it? What do you want your players to get out of it? Can each of you kind of give your feedback? I know, Michelle, you ran that 3.5 campaign for us, and you've done some DMing. So, what is your approach or your philosophy when it comes to world building? Do you like the pre-made adventures where you can take a lot of the elements and just take off on that? Or do you build your own? What's your process, I guess? Or can you talk a little bit about how you approach the world building part of it? Because that's what D&D is.
Well, after reading the DM's guide, it has most of those just rolled out for you. You just like take a list, roll the dice, and then choose, I guess the personality behind it would be your motivation. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll like take the background story to some anime I watched, or maybe I build off the enemy. So
Yeah.
I'll think of like the worst character in the whole thing, and they have to create some kind of godlike cataclysm.
Right.
And then once once I figure out what that is or how it's going to affect the world, I
Yeah.
kind of just try to get the bad guys to get it done. Like maybe it's like right before it's going to happen, or maybe the beginning of the campaign is right when it happens. I don't know. You it's like a story, like a
Right.
plot. That's what I try to do.
Yeah. What do you think, Chuck? What's the best approach, or what type of philosophy do you prefer? How do you I know you probably haven't DM'd as much stuff. Maybe you have, I don't know.
I've DM'd
Okay.
a few games. Yeah. And I like to go off the cuff, just like I do when I write.
Yeah.
I don't like to have outlines.
Right.
I don't write off outlines. I kind of just do whatever the characters do, and then they just do it. And that's probably why you do a lot of heavy editing,
Yeah.
because it just happens, it just,
Yeah.
All the
It just-
loopholes that you have to
yeah,
close.
just, I mean, but I like things off the cuff. I like things happening, but I mean, you got to have something that is called high concept.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people like to have high concept stories, meaning that there's a concept out here that you got to get your players to, or you got to get the characters to, and everything leading up to it has to lead to it. So just like when you write and you have many characters doing different things, you have 4 or 5 different multiple people's lives. They have to intersect at some point.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do, because I know that eventually they will intersect, and if they don't, we could make it intersect.
Well,
Yeah.
I've heard that's good, and I've heard that high concept terminology as it applies to like screenwriting and other forms
Yeah.
of like entertainment, which
Yeah,
I think
you gotta have a formula. Like if you look at like Quentin Tarantino movies, just for an example, or M. Night Shyamalan, he doesn't get enough pull, right?
Yeah.
So they all have like certain things, right? They got MacGuffins, or they got certain plots that they all follow, and are Eli Roth. Like I know a lot of horror directors, because I watch a lot of horror.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of like the same kind of slow burn, like Eli Roth does the shock, and you get all these little tropes, and if you get deep inside this character world building, it can get pretty sticky. But I just like to stick to formulas in general, but
Yeah.
I like to
Everything
not
is
have
like
it outlined.
sprinkled on top. You just
Just
sprinkle everything on top.
Sprinkle on top. Yeah, you got. I like to have no outline. I just like to have a concept, and then everything has to lead to that concept, and then you don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I don't DM a lot, because I don't really like DMing. I like playing the character, because it's too much work for me having to think about things off the cuff when I can just be one player.
Yeah, DMing is hard, and I think that's one of the bases where they have a lot of channels, or a lot of YouTube right now, because D&D has kind of grown. You get a lot of channels like this where people talk about, what is the approach, or like what are the things that you can do to make it easier, because it's even being a player is hard, because you don't know what like Michelle was a good example. She was playing the 3.5. I had to like retrain my mind. I was like, I haven't played a lot of 3.5. And some people like hate 4th edition. And I was like, I played a 4th edition campaign for a little while I was in Texas, and people don't like the rule system. But I was like, if the DM is good and he's using the system and he's just kind of tailoring it to whatever, this guy was doing a campaign based on Dragonlance, which is an old setting from like 2nd edition, and from the books. You're talking about the books, so I read all the books. Like after I played that game, it piqued my interest, and I bought all the Dragonlance books, because I knew they were great. And I read through them, and I was like, it's like, what I'm trying to say is like, it's inspirational, and so it doesn't matter what system you're using, as long as you make it fun, that's the thing. It's hard to make it fun consistently, and
well, that's the feeling.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I get when I open up books, especially like Vampire the Masquerade, which is like my second favorite RPG.
Yeah.
You know, JR, you know, paper RPG of all time. Like I love opening the Vampire Masquerade books because I love that world of darkness.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear, you know, to read all the backstories. And those books are different than the D&D books. The D&D books are very dry compared to the World of Darkness books. The World of Darkness books are I guess that's just me though, right? It speaks a lot about me. It's just they're just dirty and sleazy and they're just like, you know, they have the whole masquerade thing. So you understand the world right from the get-go. And then it just has all this unexplored stuff and these rules the vampires have, you know, and we can do a whole episode on that. But that
we should, we should for Halloween,
a Halloween edition, right? But I like going in there and reading the stories and reading like the connections that other people have. It's kind of like mini books inside these manuals.
Right.
That's why I don't like the fact that they're going to have like 10 in one book. I mean, they can have that. Everyone can have what they want, but I won't be getting it, you know, but I'll let you guys get it. You know, well, but like I like to have all that stuff interspersed in one book.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of one of those guys that likes to buy all the books, you know, or have all the access to all the books if the stories are good. But for like D&D, they stopped doing that. Maybe like around 4th edition, they stopped interspersing all this stuff because 3.5, you look at 3.5, they mention Ravenloft, they mention Icewind Dale. Yeah. You know, they reference this stuff. The writing was better because they go back and they reference stuff, so that way you'd be like Icewind Dale, and you're like, oh shit, do I have that? And then you go and you look and you're like, I don't have that, you know, like I gotta go try to find about Icewind Dale and why this person has this power, you know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So
little taglines.
They used to reference more like combine the settings and combine like name call and they segment a little bit more now. They did that. They did that in 4th. I noticed, but in 5th edition is like, I don't know if it's because Wizards of the Coast took over and they wanted to sell campaign settings, so they haven't even come out. It's really weird because they haven't come out with like a lot of Neverwinter stuff. They haven't done Dragonlance at all, which I mentioned, which is part of the big thing that they had back in the day. But I think that's what they're going to do next year. They didn't say it in the.
I hope they do because I feel it's incomplete because you have a whole entire world, a universe, and then you're not referencing any of this stuff. You're not making any of this money. Yeah. And it's not like the Vampire the Masquerade, right? Where I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, who the Camarilla, you know, and who are these, like, who are these sects and that, and they have each book for each clan, and then they have sub books for each like system of vampire magic, and then you can get into it as deep as you want, right? You know, but they all reference that. That's the important thing, is what I'm getting at, is they all reference each other, in like a web.
Well, in that system, you almost kind of have to, because like you said, you have all the different like groups of vampires and stuff. I never played a campaign because I couldn't find a lot of people that were interested, but I did get.
Couldn't find a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah, I couldn't find those gothic RPG players and stuff, you know, readily available.
Yeah, most people who dress as a goth, they don't want to put up or shut up, and they're like, no, I just dress this way. Ah, come on.
Yeah.
You gotta play. You gotta be the life. Get over here.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a great system, but I totally understand what you're saying in reference to like Wizards of the Coast and this D&D material, where they're more segmented. And part of it, of course, has to do with money and legal issues. Like Tracy Hickman, the people that wrote the Dragonlance books, you're talking about the books, they got into some kind of legal battle with Wizards of the Coast, and I think they barely settled it last year. So now,
she didn't want them to have the Dragonlance stuff because she didn't like what they were doing. Right. To the series.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't. They did like a whole series, a new series of Dragonlance, and then they were like, oh no, you know, that's not authorized or something, so we're not gonna, you know, buy those or whatever.
They had other writers write in Dragonlance world. Because they own the property.
Yeah.
So that's not right.
No, they had other writers. They had a whole concept for it, but the people that originally wrote it, which were the Hick couple, you know, the Tracy Hick, they were like fighting. They were like had to sue to get access and rights to their own material, which is not right. You know, it's like, I think they settled that whole thing. But yeah, that's part of the whole thing, that what they're planning to do, new races, new campaigns, 2 new campaigns and two current ones. I'm saying the current one's probably Dragonlance because by process of elimination, because it's like what they've done everything else, so they haven't done that yet. So that's what I'm guessing.
You know what I was laughing at? I was off tangent. I was thinking like, what would be the settlement for Wizards of the Coast to give the Hickmans? Like, would it be like a real dragon's tooth and $4,000 in gold?
I don't know. I'm
like,
not sure.
what would they get? Like, what were the demands of the Hickman? I just wonder. Like, they want like, I want the tooth of Arameus on top of the hills of the Gone.
That's right.
Like, and they're like, we can't get that. That doesn't exist. And then they finally just make it for her.
Well, you can make it up.
When does a concept become public?
Reality, right?
Yeah.
Well, like public domain. Like, at what point do you think any of this
there's
could
rules for
ever
that.
be referenced without being like sued for?
Well, there's rules for that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all copyrighted, so
it's
gets
all
kind of
100 years.
complicated.
100 years plus the life of the creator.
Yeah, I mean, overall copyright. Yeah, you have to a whole bunch of usually when they pass away, a lot of it is free game unless the state, the family, or the state holds on to it. Like when Michael Jackson died and they own the Beatles, they got all the Beatles catalog or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But,
things like that. People always
But
own that.
I feel like some art in a way is easy to I guess like what am I trying to say? If it was a song and you had music and a melody and lyrics, that's easy to copyright. But like if you had a story or a world that's been created, and then like what part of that story, like the names of things, or
So there's a Fair Use Act.
Mm-hmm.
So working in the library system, anybody can use fair use. As long as you say you're using it for fair use, you're not making any money off it. People can't really do anything to you. So I can be like I can be a Stephen King historian, and I could just do whole excerpts of his books. But as long as I'm saying it's all for educational purposes, which it would be, and I'm not making any money off his work, he can't really do anything to me because I'm not defaming him. I'm citing sources that are facts from his own works.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
But really, what I have the copyright up here. The copyright protection lasts for the life of the author plus an additional 70 years.
Right.
So people who don't have any family are take me for instance. Like I don't have any children, right? Or or anything like that. So if when I die, it'd be 70 years past the day I died.
but what about? But I'm talking about not
Hopefully a
not
long
how
time
long
from now.
it would- I wasn't necessarily saying like how long it would be, but I'm just saying like how much can you take from it and then like make.
How much? I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay,
I guess that's it. You could take everything, right?
No,
I mean,
no, you can't take everything. Actually, I wish you could, man. I'd be rich. I'd be like, I'd just sit down and just write D&D books all day, adventures all day. Other people would too, but no, they have this thing. Actually, that's an interesting question, and I know the answer to this because for a while I wanted to do that. I wanted to like take the Feywild or whatever and write my own version, but and a lot of people have done that and do that. But starting with when Wizards of the Coast got the IP back in 2000, I think it was, and before 3.5, they came out with this thing called the Open Game License, OGL for short, Open Game License, and they said, here's what we're going to do. We want to open it up, and they wanted to do that. They wanted people to write their own books and adventures and stuff like that, because hey, if they do that, it's going to make the game more popular. We're going to make way more money because we're going to get a cut, right? They're not going to give you everything for free, so we're going to get a cut from the licensing. And so they came up with the system with the Open Game License where that's why it was the D20 system became popular. Like Chuck, you were talking about the Vampire Masquerade. That came out of the D20 system because they said before we had all the dice and we had different rolls and stuff, but they standardized it. Okay, we're gonna do D20 and this is how it works.
Yeah. A lot of games came out.
Yeah, and all these games came out like Pathfinder and stuff because they opened it up.
Jackson
and they said,
games. Munchkin,
they opened it up
and
all these RPGs, and they said we're gonna open up the system and you can do this, but you can't use the name. They get all this licensing things. You can't use like you can use kobolds, but you can't use this. You can't use the silver dragons. They make specific rules of what you can or cannot include, which is really confusing. But if you go to the website, it tells you what you can do. And then 4th edition, it was even more strict. Like they're like, okay, we're closing down on, you can't use this character names in your books or your stories that you're gonna publish, But they did have the DMs Guild, which is kind of like Wizards of the Coast has a website just for creators. So Chuck, if you wanted to write some D&D books with for DMs Guild, you can, and you can, but you have to go through Wizards of the Coast. That's the thing.
Yeah, because if it's popular and sells,
yeah,
they can just take it and give me like 10% of it, and they're like, you're done. And that's always been a thing. Yeah, that's always been a thing. Like, I get it, like so that'd be a dream. Like if I could write an actual book for like D&D or Wizards of the Coast or any kind of big corporation like that, that'd be great because I would take a crack at it and I would not make it trash.
We should do that because I think being creative people, we could each write like a chapter, and then just make one big one.
Being announced on NoobDM.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're gonna write the greatest adventure.
1 second, you're gonna have to edit this out. 1 second.
Okay. That's a good idea. Actually.
He's making the deal. That was someone calling him about making this deal.
That's right. He went off to talk to his agent because he said, "Hey, what are you doing? We want the whole thing. We don't want to share it." You're dropping the pooch here, or you? Yeah.
How about instead of 10% of our withholding, we give you?
Yeah. Well, if you have a literary agent, they always take a cut, and then the company takes a cut. So really, you end up with just a fraction of whatever you make. But that's standard, capitalist system.
Taxes, what have you.
Yeah, you don't get everything.
All right, edit me back in now.
Yeah, Chuck is back from talking to his literary agent because he heard us talking about putting together a book or an adventure. He's like, what are you doing? You don't want to share.
She goes, you can't work with these people.
Yeah, I cut into our deal, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Whoa. What?
You need to share. You need to share the wealth.
You gotta share it. Oh, I'm down for sharing. Writing ain't about money. You don't make money being a writer.
No, you want to which is kind of the messed up thing about it, because I was like, I read that gaming license and I was like, oh, so I can't have a paladin who's, it's so weird because you can have a paladin who's generic, but as long as, and you can't even say the names, like as long as, if you use something that's copyrighted, then you could get in trouble. But if you do like a generic one, like they have these books, I'll show you. Actually, I had them for adventures, but they have these books like from the, I think it's Goodman Games or some third party, and all they do is they write D&D adventures for 5e, and but you can't say, like, they don't even say, it's like it says for this is an adventure for the world's greatest role-playing game, but they can't say it's for D&D because they'll get sued.
Oh, I see that before, like the who.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
that's right. It's like, well, what else could it be? You have dragons and you have like, fantasy tropes. What else could it be?
Is it the Jackson games where it's like the dragons in dungeons?
Yeah,
and they just flip them.
Yeah, the houses.
That's what I'm saying. I guess for the Dragonlance, if they had like names of people and things and towns.
Yeah. Lance Dragon.
The only way you could get away was be like really close.
Yeah.
But then nobody would read it.
Yeah, that's the thing with something like Dragonlance that's so proprietary and so well known. It doesn't really work because you name like Sir Lancelot or whatever. I
don't know any of that, so I'm just kind of going with, I guess, movies.
Yeah. Well, even for the movies, like they do the same thing, right? It's like everything's copyrighted, so you couldn't write like a screenplay and include like Frodo or some. I guess is Frodo public? Like Frodo might be public domain, right? No, I guess not.
Yeah, all of Tolkien's stuff is public domain now.
Yeah,
because of the age. It's been since he died. It's been 70 years.
That's all like mythological stories, and then whatever descriptions you get from the book when you're referencing things in your world. I don't know.
Well, exactly. Well, that's why you guys know that's why we have halflings instead of what is it? What was that one race that they had to change? no hobbits. We don't have hobbits in D&D because that's copyrighted. So then they made the
Right.
halfling, which is kind of the same thing, you know.
Well, they
little
can put
guy.
hobbits in now.
They could, yeah. I mean, but now everybody knows what a halfling is, so they'll get
That's
confused.
the thing is, if someone came out with a new Lord of the Rings book, I probably won't read it,
Yeah,
right? Because
right.
how are you gonna, like, I don't care what you say, like,
Yeah.
like you're done. You didn't know the world. You just got the world from everything else, from
Right.
the reference material. It's not like it wasn't in your head, so you ain't Tolkien. So forget it.
Well,
You know.
That's a good point, and that's a good segment. Like circling back to the world building, we were talking about that. That's all world building, right? I mean, whether you're writing a book, you're writing a pre-generated adventure, which
Yeah,
is
you're,
what
you're world building.
yeah,
That's all
you're
you're
world
doing.
building, and Michelle is right. Like you can take, like I've seen so many takes on Thor. Like some people that watch the Marvel movies and don't know mythology, they think like Marvel invented Thor or Loki and all those characters. Those characters have been around for hundreds of years. You know, all they did is took it from the public domain and made their own version, right? So if I made a mythology with it's not Greek, it's what is it? What's the Nordic? If I made the Nordic gods and I had
Mhm.
Thor, I could write it, and writers have that. They do it all the time. You know, they just give their own
Do it, yeah.
yeah, their own.
You
type
know
of-
what's hard though is the players part. They're
How
the
so?
key. They're the decision. I'm the reaction.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah,
I can't just think of something unless I was being the player as well. But
Maybe
I
that's
don't know,
why.
even then it's like you're
Yeah.
biased. You want your player to do something. With the third party, it's like you have no freaking clue.
yeah,
And then you want it to lead up to something, and that's kind of the magic that happens when you're
Maybe that's
doing
why I don't like to DM, because I like to react to things.
yeah.
exactly.
I like to listen and react to things instead of making it up and then having to react to all the other players as
Yeah,
as 4 or 5 different people. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's too much.
No,
too
no,
much for me.
everybody's different. And I'm the same way. Like I think I DM'd once that one time, and then I started doing some of the 5 weeks only because nobody wanted to, or there was nobody around to do it. But if I had my preference, I would just be a player and just like, because I like to see where, like when Michelle was doing it, or where other people were doing it, where are they going to take me in this world that I'm not familiar with, right? I'm making the map. I'm trying to guess whether I'm going to go here, or what if I do this? And yeah, you can't really predict, or what's the right word? You can't predict. You don't know what's going to happen, because the hard thing is you can have this whole thing in your head or written out or prepared, and people will go a completely different direction. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we want to do this, and so that
That's
makes
the
it hard.
worst part.
Yeah.
That's why I don't prepare. That's why I don't outline.
Yeah, and that's why the
Yeah.
pre-gen books, like they're very good. They have all this research and material, but they don't work. I mean, I use them as a reference guide, but you can't go. It's not like choose your own adventure where I mean, I guess some of them are like, if you do this, turn to this page, and they do that. But that's boring because it's all like
You know what the ending is.
yeah, and they have some replayability. Like there's one I do like where it's like an urban setting, and the only one I own because I read the review, and it's like basically if you do, it has like multiple endings, so, and multiple gods. So if you do this, it has replayability. But for the most part, you can do that on your own, and you can just say, okay, well, I ran out of what they're telling me, or the guidelines, I guess. That's the thing. It's like Gary Gygax and all those guys, when they first started the game, they were like, this is just all guy. You can make all this stuff up. If you don't like the D20 for initiative, use something else. It's like you're free to open, as long as you're consistent and you're doing it every week, every session, and people are having fun, then that's the main thing. And I think we're this is my editorializing, but I think we're getting away from that with all this Hollywood and product lines. And don't you think, Chuck? I mean, it's so rigid. And from that panel was terrible.
I still go for the Fair Use Act. That's my thing. And I'm reading it here, and this is what I learned in the library.
Yeah.
Like I can legally show a whole entire movie to you.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as I can prove that we're doing some kind of research.
Right. Or for educational purpose.
So say this is for a thesis for school. If I can, and then they'd go like, well, where are your school records? Oh, where are your enrollment records? I show your road, and they're like, oh shit, okay, fine.
That's true.
Or you say like, I'm writing a scientific paper on the analysis of violence in films, you know, or whatever. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And then, so what are you doing? Oh, me and my buddy were writing it together. So we're watching this movie out here.
Yeah.
You know, and you're watching a movie. You can watch the whole thing. You could talk about the whole thing. You could totally dissect it.
That's fair use. That's fair use, right?
It's all fair use. Like right now, I could show it. We could show something right now, and educational purposes. This is not monetized anymore. And you got to state all. As long as you state that stuff, you could totally destroy it, dissect it. If they want to get down to it, they go, well, "Did you purchase the film?" And go, "Yeah, the receipt's over there. You know, it's on my credit card."
Yeah.
Like we bought it, you know, so we can watch it, or I have the physical copy here.
I think that's, yeah, you're right. And I think that's why some creators like on YouTube and other platforms get in trouble, because they do adhere to it, but they try to monetize it, right? And when you monetize your channel, then you can get in trouble because, you know, you're going X amount of time or whatever. You're using stuff, it falls out of the fair act. And I think that's
getting the money. Yeah, as soon as you get money or anything, the only way you can get around that is if you have a sponsorship.
right.
So if you got a sponsorship, you know, you put it out in the front, you're very upfront with it. You say this movie, you know, video is sponsored by this, and you do your whole little spiel, right?
Well,
and then you can go.
You guys don't know that, but that's what
They would get in trouble.
that's what I've been working on behind the scenes, getting sponsorships for us, you know.
That's it.
Yeah.
It.
We're gonna be sponsored, you know, right here. But anyway, yeah, you're right. Like that's one way
It's
to do
all
it. And that's a
about
fair way. Fair way.
Patreon.
Yes, right.
Patreon.
We'll get to that stage. So
My OnlyFans, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, turn it off." I'm like, "No, guys, OnlyFans is more than just pornography."
that's right. They try to stop doing the porn, and they said no. You know.
Oh
people
yeah,
are
no,
not-
I was against that too. Like, you know, hey, come on, I'm all for fair use.
Yeah, that's right.
Like if those people want to make a living, I'm for sex workers.
That's right.
You're gonna edit that out. I want that. I want that to stay in.
Perfectly
No,
respectful.
That's
Yeah,
important. That's important
There's
because
no-
you know that's it's all First Amendment. So
All first.
exactly. So going back to summarize the future, I want to ask you guys, what do you do? That's one thing I kind of want to wrap it up because we're getting kind of running out of time. But to wrap it up, to summarize, to give like final conclusion, what's it called? The final thoughts. What do you guys think should be the future of the? Because when I see this panel, I said the whole thing. I watched. It was 3 days, and I watched some of it on Saturday. I was very disappointed. I was like, you know, they don't market it well. They're having more of the supplements that are the same. And do we really need like another edition, like a 5.5, when we have so much material? I mean, going back 30 years, 40 years now, 50 years, I guess it'll be when the new edition is out. We have so much material that we don't really. I think unless the company's trying to get more money out of the players. You know, I mean, companies always try to get money. What do you guys think should be the future? Like, what do the platform thing was cryptic because they're like, we have a new platform, but we're not going to tell you what it's going to be. So, what do you guys want to see, or what do you think the fans would like to see? I guess.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think the future of D&D should be exactly that, the future.
Yeah.
I think they should go into space. I think they should go in.
Oh, you mean like other settings?
Super controversial? No, I
Yeah.
think they should really push a space thing, because I know in the horror genre, with writing novels and short stories and stuff, the horror genre, that is something that hasn't been explored, and that's where everyone's kind of going. For a while, it was horror westerns, and now it's kind of going back. It's going into space. You know, space horror is becoming the next step, and D&D has never even touched on that. I mean, Alien, that's it, but like they never like touched on going to another planet. You know, setting things on infinite universes. You know.
Right.
You mean the traveling aspect? Because I mean, magically.
Well, magic can still be on a spaceship. You know, like it'd be like that, but then you'd be infringing on other science fiction works. But if they just keep it D&D, they don't have a monopoly on magic and space. So just
interesting. Put
that together, you know, fight the dragon alien. It could be something like a serpent alien. That's all they can describe it, but it could be something ethereal. We have ethereal creatures already.
Yeah. So
space
you're
stuff.
talking about like the kind of a different setting other than the fantasy tropes that
Infringe on the Warhammer.
Yeah.
Technology.
Technology, add more technology to it, because I know they tried with the steampunk stuff, and they tried like, oh, I made a gun out of rocks and sticks.
Yeah.
Like mechanically, but like I want to see something set, 100 years in the future.
That's interesting.
Like D&D future real or something, like D&D D&D 100 years past or whatever.
Well, that was one of the strengths. I think that's a good idea. And that was one of the strengths of like second edition, when they try that. They did try that for a while, where they have different settings other than the fantasy trope. So they did have the Spelljammer. That's kind of what you're talking about, but not really the future.
They
it didn't
touched
work.
on stuff.
It wasn't very popular. It didn't sell at the time.
Because they didn't pop it out in full force. They didn't have a whole entire. They didn't have a whole Ravenloft book dedicated. They didn't have a whole book dedicated to it.
Yeah.
And when they launched all that stuff like Icewind Dale and Ravenloft and stuff, they launched alongside it. They launched novelizations.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you're right. I think that's why Dragonlance was way more popular, because they had all the novels.
You already had that backlog of books. People were like, "Oh shit, they're doing a Dragonlance? Yes, I'm on it."
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they ever had like Spelljammer books. I don't remember seeing. Maybe they did later. I don't know. Yeah.
No, they didn't have it. That's why I'm saying they gotta go into space. They gotta do some stuff and not make it Warhammer.
Well, Perkins, I think you're right. And Perkins did allude to the fact that they're gonna have more focus on the multiverse, because now it's not just the primal plane on Earth and the outer planes and the nine hells, but they're gonna go into expanding the multiverse. So maybe they're gonna do some of that, but again, it wasn't very specific. What about you, Michelle? What do you think should be the future of our game, of RPGs or D&D specifically?
I think there's a lot of the same old.
Yeah.
If they came out with a new format, we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But if it was like cards or something where you could really build up with, instead of, I don't know,
other than
like Lego format, like you gotta build your own character out of Legos.
Like to formulate something, like if they had more formulas of stuff where if you're running low on ideas, if you need like some kind of, if they had a tarot version of D&D is what I'm saying, like if you could
That's
just pick a card.
Didn't they start that already? Like, or didn't, not the tarot version, but don't they already have cards? I mean,
well, they haven't.
Right?
They don't have them like
spells or so something for the DM to go, what do you got? Oh, you got randomly, you got this and this and this.
Yeah, they do have cards, because I remember I was playing a ranger, and the rangers don't have a lot of spells like the wizards. So the cards were like this. The deck was pretty small, and the paladin and the wizard had like the most, or the cleric had the most. But I think what you're talking about is like a system-wide thing, like where Magic the Gathering has a system based on a different format, other than just the books and other than just the box sets. Is that what you're saying? I think that's what you're saying, right?
That, but like in the form of a list of things based on what world you're gonna do, or like a race, or what you're gonna encounter during the mission, like something campaign driven, not class driven, or I don't know, component, like a small component, like the whole thing. Like if they did something that impressive, I'd be impressed.
I'm waiting for them to do what I inevitably think they're going to do, is because they already kind of done it, like merge Magic the Gathering with D&D. It's already done, but I'm waiting for them to do it in the game. So you're playing the campaign, and they're like, well, what do you have? You pull out your Magic the Gathering deck. You're like, yes, this one and this one, and then they're just gonna fuck everything up.
Yeah, I don't know if they combine Magic and D&D, but I know they have.
I think that's where it's headed.
It could
because
be,
they just keep getting lamer and lamer. I need them to.
That would be interesting too. Yeah, like that'd be cool. That's what I was kind of talking about.
Yeah.
right?
No, I think that's a great idea. I think it's gonna happen because the company owns both games, you know, and they're both highly popular. So that's probably inevitable. It's already a done deal. They're working on
Space
it.
is going to be the sixth
Yeah.
color
That's right.
or seventh
Yeah.
color. You unofficially.
What?
I don't know how many. I know the lands. I don't
Well,
know how
Magic
many.
the Gathering.
Five,
You know, you got the
yeah,
plains,
five colors,
swamps,
right?
islands, mountains. You know,
Okay. Got it.
and forests, and then you
Chuck,
got
you're
colorless.
out geeking me because you're talking about Magic now. You're out
Oh,
nerding me.
that whole two bottom shelves are just Magic cards. All right.
All right. Well,
It took me a second.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty bad. Space is the next way. Space
Okay.
dragons.